about Kyle and I's new show, This Week in Blizz. It's a weekly podcast covering Diablo 3, World of Warcraft, and StarCraft 2. So if you're like me and Blizzard owns your soul, you should tune in. You can find us on iTunes or at thisweekinblizz.com. We'll see you there. StarCast is proudly sponsored by DoghouseSystems.com. My girlfriend and I both have a Doghouse rig, and they're the best computers either of us have had. So you should go check them out. And while you're there, use the code StarCast or Biscuit at checkout, and you'll get double memory on your next Doghouse system. We thank DoghouseSystems.com for their support of StarCast. Additional support comes from GameChangersTheMovie.com, SC2QuoteOfTheDay.com, and listener Marximus, who says, keep up the great work and keep the Google Listen, aka RSS feed non-iTunes listeners, in mind as you grow the show. For the Swarm! Coming up next week on episode 99, on the 18th of April, we will have MLG CEO Sundance D. Giovanni joining us. Make sure you tune in for that. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 98 of StarCast.
It's about damn time for StarCast.
Incoming transmission.
Welcome to StarCast, your community StarCraft podcast. I am your host, Garrett Weinzierl, and I can't believe that this is episode 98. Dear God, where's the time gone? The man to my west is Kyle Ferguson. He has been here for 98 episodes as well. How you doing, Kyle?
Well, technically I missed one or two, but let's not forget that. Oh my goodness, almost 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
Just a bit. I'm not recording on like a POS headset anymore. We know what esports are. It's kind of nice.
We are saying the units correctly for now.
Yes, for now. Wait until Heart of the Swarm drops and I start confusing all sorts of things because I was expecting some units and I didn't get some others. Oh, topical.
Oh, well, luckily we got to learn with the game instead of if we were coming in now with all the events going on. I mean, let me say that I was very excited to get caught up on IPL. I was quite busy this past weekend, so I didn't get to watch any of it live. So I sit down, I'm like, yeah, time to watch some VODs. Click the only VOD they have on the website, 13 hours long.
So yeah, isn't that great? It's great. Thank God for Reddit, man, because I was like, where's the VODs for this thing, man? Because I caught the GSTL finals live, but I totally missed the IPL 4 finals because it was Sunday and it was Easter and I had to do family stuff.
Yeah, family.
So, because bunnies are awesome. I don't know. I don't understand Easter.
No.
But yeah, so luckily Reddit was like, hey, 11 hours in the final start. I'm like, cool. Go watch those. So, anyways, the man you heard snickering in the background, that could be none other than our guest for the day, Nick AxSlav Ranish. How you doing, Nick? Last we spoke, we were drinking heavily at the MLG after party.
Yeah, that's pretty standard for all those after parties, you know, after everyone's playing and they're done playing and they finally get a chance to unwind. So I've been doing pretty well lately. It's going well.
Yeah, it's a good time. Great to have you back. So, you know, last time we had you on the show, you had just joined Team Rain, and we were talking about that. You were saying how awesome it was, and honestly, the next day, Team Rain disbanded, and you eventually joined Infinity 7. How did that all happen? How'd you end up with Infinity 7?
Well, you know, the Rain thing kind of just came out of nowhere. So it wasn't like EG where I had, you know, another week or two to stay in the house to try to find a new team. It was kind of, you know, a lot more abrupt. So, you know, I talked to all the teams. I talked to a lot of them before I joined Rain. And Infinity 7, you know, while they're not the tip top, you know, everyone has all heard of it and watched, you know, they're not playing all the great teams, but they're definitely an up-and-coming team. I think, you know, the players are all hungry for wins. And I'd met Jingna before at New York, and she seemed like a good person to lead the team and you know, make it grow. And I think we're gonna see good things coming from us.
That's great to hear, man. I know Kyle and I were just like, oh my God, I feel so bad for AxSlav. Last night he was talking about how great the new team was, and yeah, that was, I mean, that had to be way worse for you than it obviously was for us. But
I mean, is it like a repo situation? Like, did you just wake up one day with a guy unplugging your computer, or what kind of goes down?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was, Rain was paying for all our accommodations, so it was actually kind of, we're like, oh, we only got a week to figure out where we're gonna live and everything, and luckily, or I guess unluckily for Frank and Don were the people who were the managers of Rain, and I guess it was unluckily for them, their names were on the lease, so they were kind of stuck with the house. And I decided to just, stick it out with them. It's, very affordable rent. Of course, not as affordable as it was being free back when Rain was still around. But no, I mean, I love it's in San Leandro. I love the area. I know a lot of people around here, and the house is great. So, it's still, the economics were tougher, but at least the living conditions were the same.
Yeah. Well, that's good because moving's no fun, particularly when you don't know what's coming. So I'm glad that worked out for you.
So I'm assuming Infinity 7, they don't have a team house since you're staying in the old Rain house.
That's correct. There's no team house. I don't know if there's any plans to do that in the near future. Team house is a pretty big investment that I'm not sure we're quite ready yet for. We're still, we have a lot of people in high school and college still, so. We're more of an up-and-coming growing team.
Gotcha. So, the people living there, are they StarCraft players, or do you just have, like, new random roommates?
Well, Frank and Don still live here, and, I mean, they're not, like, active. I mean, they play StarCraft occasionally, but, Frank works for IGN. And then some of his coworkers from IGN moved in.
Oh, okay.
And, I mean, so there's no one who's really a competitive StarCraft player like myself, but they're all people who are into the gaming culture and the scene, and a lot of them play League of Legends and stuff like that, so it's fun.
Yeah, so you didn't, like, have an accountant move in that you like, at the dinner table, you're just like, yeah, so, StarCraft, yeah, how's that, yeah.
Well, an accountant at least would be bearable because it'd be some random dude. You just don't talk to him. The worst is, like, I don't know, you get some guy who only plays, like, mobile gaming.
Oh, yeah. Well, WCG, right? That's his thing nowadays. So.
Yeah, man. Pro Angry Birds players. I hear they're that's the next big thing.
Oh man! And then they put it in space. I'm like, NASA dollars at work. Jeez.
Angry Birds in space.
See, you cut funding for NASA, Obama, and this is what happens.
Yeah.
This is what happens. So, how was all the moving between teams? Because I mean, you went from EG to Rain, and then you went from Rain to Infinity 7. I mean, was it tough on you, or did it go a lot smoother than we may think?
I think it's smoother than most people think. I mean, the more tricky part is the economics of it, trying to figure out how you can, make a living or be able to, survive doing the gaming thing with the different contracts. And everyone does their contracts a little bit differently. It's more complicated than just a salary. But what a lot of people think of is like, they think it's going to mess up your training regimen and your practice routine. And it doesn't really do that. I mean, it's not like when you're in a team, you only play those people from your team. It's not like it's when I left EG, I never talked to EG players or practice with them. No, I still play with those guys. I still play with, people like I practice with Red a lot, right? Someone who I've never been on a team with.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's I could name, pretty much everyone I practice with. But it's so the practicing isn't really too disrupted, but it's not as bad as some people might think.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear, man. That's really good to hear, actually. So, who do you still have kind of the same practice partners, or do you now train exclusively with Infinity 7 members?
I mean, I train a lot more with Infinity 7 members, so I do practice a good amount with them, but I still have all the same practice partners as well. I still practice with Machine from EG, Demonsum if I can get him to get off Skype and play some games. There's a bunch of people in Europe I practice with. There's, Illusion. I play some with NA. And there's a lot of people I practice with.
And a lot of people are interested to know if you're still keeping up with your 2v2s with Strifecrow?
Oh, actually, we never really played 2 vs 2 besides a couple tournaments.
Oh, okay.
Neither of us were really into 2 vs 2 that much, but we just into StarCraft 2 vs 2 that much.
Right.
But we really liked the Warcraft 3 too, so we still had a lot of experience playing with each other, so for tournaments we'd show up and we'd be a good match for that. But it wasn't like we actually practiced it or anything like that. So.
Well, you should go edit your Wikipedia page because they make it sound like it's a big deal with you.
Yeah. No. Well, that was a lot. When I joined EG, they kind of kept pitching that idea, even though we never actually played. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, it's something that comes up a lot with this show because we attract a lot of casual players, and we always get the question, is 2v2 going to be viable? It's just like, no, just no.
Yeah.
Well, and before we move on here, congratulations to you. I believe right after you were on our show last time, you went and did a round table show match against Destiny and ended up taking it like really well, like 3-1, was it?
Yeah, it was 3-1.
Dang, nice job, man.
Yeah, it's PvZ's one of my stronger matchups, so it's there aren't too many NA surds to give me a hard time.
All right. Well, that's fantastic, man. It's good to hear that you're back and on a stable team. So, well, let's get into the meat of the show. It's time for this week's status report.
Can we get a status report?
Status report this week is brought to you by GameChangersTheMovie.com. Game Changers is a film about friendship and success in the world of pro gaming. Visit GameChangersTheMovie.com for more information. A $10 donation will get your gamer tag in the credits of the film. So go check them out.
And they only got 10 days left on their Indiegogo, so now is the time to be helping out Game Changers.
Get over there. I'm really excited to see them finish that up and see the dang movie already. So
I want to see a movie that pertains to my culture.
Even though it is nowhere near finished, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we got a bit of a bombshell today. I don't even know where to start. I damn near missed this, and thank God for SDS Tash, the listener of the show. You guys are probably familiar with him if you hang out in the forums. He just emailed me. It's just like, you probably saw this, but just in case. And I'm just like, no, I did not see this, because I don't check the official site ever, because they never have anything to tell me. And sure enough, we got a developer update on Heart of the Swarm, specifically the multiplayer. Now, we haven't heard crap about this since BlizzCon, and they were just like, new units everywhere! We have a confetti gun full of new units! Here you go!
Nothing you see exists. Don't talk about it. Like, yeah, I've been wondering what kind of... We've been hanging out in a weird sort of Heart of the Swarm limbo. I mean, we have Diablo 3 coming out in, 4 weeks now? Oh my goodness. That is exciting.
Weeks, I think. 5 weeks.
Okay, well, I was minusing a week for when I thought I heard it. But yeah, 5 weeks. I'm awful excited, but now some Heart of the Swarm news, and this is quite meaty.
Yeah, indeed. So, in short, we've got it broken down by race here. As far as the Terran is concerned, the Shredder is gone. It's out. I believe In Control was on the show and just couldn't have enough bad things to say about the Shredder. So I guess he called it. We'll just say it right now. Good job for you, In Control. Your hatred of the Shredder is shared by many. Because it's funny when you read this. They said it was used to kill a lot of workers quickly and wasn't used as intended as map control. It's like, well, what did you think people were going to do, Blizzard? Like, you really need to go on the ladder. You need to hire just like 5 random people from Grandmasters and just let them tinker with everything. Because apparently you do not have malicious enough StarCraft 2 players on staff. So I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys think it's because they're too close to the project since they're working on it? They don't really like, well, this is what we want it for. This is its intention. But they don't really think about how people will utilize what they've implemented? Because that was right at BlizzCon, on the floor, day one. Everyone's like, oh my god, I'm going to drop those out of a medevac in your mineral line. How did they not think of that?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the times, it's something that's obvious to one person, but it's not obvious to everyone else. I mean, the Vortex Archon thing, right? People were doing that for a while, and that's something that I bet the first person who did it, there was someone. I bet even before we saw Kibikaki doing pro games, there was some guy in like gold doing that every single match. And he was like, "How come no one's doing this? How could they never think about the Vortex Archon or Breed Lord and faster combination locking units down and him. I mean, there's a lot of different, I guess, usages, and I think there's still a lot that haven't really come about yet, like Sensor Tower and Viking to stop War Prism, right? Most people just kind of complain about the strength of War Prism, and there's all these usages of units that I don't think have been, so it's kind of I'm not honestly shocked that Blizzard missed that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I think it was more that they thought it was just a really awesome unit, and they probably knew these things, and they're probably just holding on to that last thread. Particularly the one guy who came up with the shredder, like bunkered in, like pillow fort in his cubicle. Like, no, don't get rid of it. It's my baby.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little sad to see it go because I did think it was cool, but again, I agree with all of the cons. I'm not gonna, as a Terran player and a fan, I'm not gonna lie and try and defend it. I kind of agree.
Ultimately, I feel like it punished casual players too much. I believe that's the reason it's out, is because if you weren't watching the map, if you were like, Zerglings, go, and like, okay, I'm gonna go back in macro, like, they were all dead.
Yeah,
you would have no idea what happened.
You can make the same argument, though, that it helped casual players too much, because it wasn't micro-intensive at all. You set it and forget it.
Well, that's for the Terran players. I'm saying for their opponents.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Well, excuse me for not playing Terran here and not wanting a shredder.
Yeah, and then they go into mech a lot, and I'm sure Ramley on the forums is having a field day with this, because all he ever wants to know is mech. I want to know mech against Protoss. So they're talking about the Warhound, which is like the Goliath, but not. They're saying it still feels too much like a Thor. Well, a small Thor to be specific. And they said it's just not new enough to give Terran players new strategies. They said they're experimenting with a wide range of units, particularly from the factory, which they think is a little light on options. So they're still playing around with that. They said if we keep the Thor, we are currently experimenting with an anti-air spider mine that would give the Terrans a way to get some factory-built anti-air into small places that a Thor has trouble reaching, like your minerals. So whether this is meaningful, considering Terrans have Marines, is still in question. We're also experimenting with an extremely long-range Terran missile launcher that can be used to break siege tank lines to make Terran versus Terran factory-based games more dynamic. That line right there actually excites me. I think that sounds very interesting, and I'd like to see how they would implement that.
You mean a nuke?
That's basically what they're saying, right?
Yeah, but I would think something that's like a missile launcher would be a lot faster delivery than a nuke.
Yeah. That seems tough to balance.
Yeah.
Because that could easily get insane strong. And the thing, at least from my perspective, I think Terran versus Terran factory-based games are already pretty dynamic when you see at the very top level. Because it's true that it's hard to break a tank line, but it's also hard to cover the whole map. And so, at a little bit lower level, people just see a bunch of tanks and they're like, oh, I can't do anything. I'm just going to make my own tank line. They're thinking more of their own side. But at the very top level, you'll see they'll go around the tank line. They'll drop PDDs to do drops into main even their missile turrets. They'll poke at sides of the tank line. There's always some offensive option. And I think it's still dynamic at the top level. So yeah, I'm not sure that's really needed too much.
Yeah, I mean, I've said on the show multiple times, I really enjoy watching DPT. It's
yeah.
very, very chess-like. It's all about positioning. Obviously, a lot of people don't share that sentiment with me, but...
Well, they're wrong.
Poo-poo all of you. Well, thank you. And you're not even a Terran player. AxSlav said it. TVT is interesting. So, well, speaking of your race of choice, AxSlav, let's talk about Protoss a little bit. The Replicant is out. Everyone, a lot of people were kind of naysaying the Replicant right out the gate, much like the Shredder. What were your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I just, the only thing I thought it would be so amazing to get a Cloak Banshee. Like, it's just such a strong unit. Every time you get harassed by, you're like, I know what I'm going to do back to that guy, because even Terran Mirror, they have to react so strong to that Cloak Banshee, right? It was just like my dream to turn that around on them. Yeah. But I mean, I guess, like it's like what they're saying, right? Terran just wouldn't get Cloak Banshees anymore, because then it could be used against him as well, which is like, yeah. So I can see why they got rid of it.
Yeah, I was really curious to see how instantly sieged tanks would play out if you replicated tank. But yeah, I guess we'll never know now. They also said the Tempest, which is the Protoss splash damage capital ship, is being redesigned and functioning as a long-range siege unit, able to attack air and ground. Other than attacking air, it sounds a little similar to the Broodlord to me, because it's air and it's extremely long range.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the personality of the Zerg, but I totally see that thing moving a little slowly, still shooting the big kind of balls of energy that fly across and then explode on impact. So it's a cool thought, certainly. I mean, there's nothing more horrifying than what kind of range is this thing going to have? Is it going to hang out in the middle of a Terran, line like a Thor and just pelt from a distance? Or what kind? They say long range. I want to know how long the range is, of course. These are, and the way this article is made, it's very stream of consciousness. Like, this is like some guy was like stood up in the Blizzard cubicle and was like, "Hey, everybody, can I let him know something?" Yeah, sure. You got like 1,000 words. Go for it. He's like, "Okay." And, it's not well organized. They're just kind of saying what their thoughts are at the moment. So
yeah, which I really like. I think this would be a lot more of a positive thing if they did this type of thing more often. Now, because this is the first update we're getting within, 6 months since BlizzCon, it seems a little haphazard. But if they were to do this, say, once a month, I would be all for this. If they were just kind of like, all right, guys, just letting you know where we're at our thought process. I'd like a little more transparency from Blizzard. It would be nice because, I tweeted today, I was like, oh my God, Blizzard gave us something to talk about with StarCraft 2. WoW doesn't get all the love. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like Blizzard always given the WoW crowd something to talk about. They're usually very transparent about their builds with that game. But with StarCraft, it's just like, yeah, we'll let you know at BlizzCon, maybe. And this year's not even a BlizzCon, so it's kind of nice that they're giving us a peek.
Well, it's interesting that they say, with the addition of the range upgrade on the Phoenix and Wings of Liberty, we no longer feel like a splash anti-air weapon is necessary for Protoss. AxSlav, do you feel like that Phoenix range has really made that big of a difference?
AxSlav, can you hear us?
I don't really think it has, but I don't think... Yeah, I can hear you.
I guess we got a little lag there.
Skype's acting up. I'm on a wireless, so...
Oh, it happens.
Oop.
Did we lose him? His his camera's freezing. Bear with us, live crowd. I guess this is as good a time as ever to mention to the live... now we can hear you. Maybe. Can you hear us? Okay, there it is.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sweet.
Okay, I think my internet's giving me a little bit of problems right now. But yeah, so I was saying, I don't think the Phoenix range upgrade is a big change, but I think with Storm, you don't need a mass. Storm is area of effect, answer. Right. And, the thing is, I think they realized they were making a Tempest, right? It's this AoE unit, so it's like the Corsair from StarCraft 1, except it's 1/4 as fast, and you can't get it till late game. So no one's ever going to make it. It's like you get the super late game thing that's still probably worse than Storm. And unlike the Corsair was amazing against Mutas because it had that speed that the Phoenix does, right?
Right.
So it's like if you make it slow, it's just a Storm that only hits air. It's just kind of bad. Especially if you put it way far up the tech tree when Mutas aren't even... I assume that's what they're thinking of, right? Mutas and maybe Vikings, but those things aren't as big a deal anymore at that point. So, I like this change, especially because I think the other thing, especially with getting rid of, I think they still plan to get rid of the mothership as far as I know.
Yeah, and the carrier. Yeah,
so having a nice, a more solid capital airship, not just it'll be muteless. This will be a big part of your army, and it'll be maybe a way to answer broodlords to pull them into you.
Right. Now, and this just hit me because I mentioned carriers. They're saying it's going to be a long-range unit that can hit ground and air. Couldn't they just increase the range of interceptors on carriers and keep the carrier in the game?
They could, but I think it would still have the same problem that the interceptors are so vulnerable. Things like Marines, Sport. I think they just wanted to change the unit. I think that would be fine as well, increasing range on a carrier and keeping it. You probably have to increase the damage as well because the carrier damage output is super low right now. It's the same as 2 Zealots, which is... Oh. And that's not even counting the fact that units that have armor, with each shot doing 5 damage, for hitting a guy with 3 armor, that takes away 60% of its damage, and now it's down to the damage of 1 Zealot. So it's... I think the idea of this is instead of having these constant little pestering things, it's like a siege tank, or a broodlord, where even if you don't have the upgrades, it's just each shot, they'll know something hit them.
Right, gotcha. So it gives you that kind of that that buffer around. It gives you a little more map control.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's cool. Okay, that's
Well, I hope
definitely...
I mean, clearly we're going to have a campaign to, kind of build up the awesomeness of this thing. So, we'll get to see some videos of it at some point, but I'm sure I'm hoping it can be that planet cracker that we were kind of promised there for a bit. Like, I mean, Protoss, they're supposed to be flying around destroying worlds. Like, well, that planet has Zerg on it. Let's get rid of it. So I'm hoping this is a pretty awesome capital ship, because the mothership, it seemed like a mothership. Like, it looked like it had a nice sort of view on it. People could hang out, get a coffee, but not really a machine of war.
Yeah.
I love Kyle Ferguson's reasons for getting rid of the mothership. Not menacing looking.
It looked like a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Well, that's...
So, Protoss, they're very tired, right? Because they got to warp in, down, they got to warp back up. All that warping around, you got to, kick back at your giant swimming pools and, relax a little bit, so.
Absolutely. It's tiring.
Yeah.
I mean,
they said
you could turn into a fly. You might get timelined. I mean, every single movie that has warp technology that's not Star Trek. Well, even then it goes wrong. It won't work. It doesn't turn on.
It's dangerous, man.
That's the issue with Star Trek, though. Every single movie is solved by beaming someone up.
But sometimes they can't beam up.
Every damn movie. And the interesting ones are where the beam up feature is broken because it's a get out of jail free card and doesn't make for interesting storytelling.
So that's why they're getting rid of the mothership. That's like the recall. It's like where everyone gets beamed up to, right? So if they get rid of it, it'll be more interesting.
Yeah.
Or they tack it onto the Nexus, as stated here. They said they're still experimenting with the Nexus abilities. They said one example is mass recall that allows the Protoss to be more aggressive. They can move out onto the map with their slower sentry/zealot force, and if things don't work out, recall the force back to their base if and when things go wrong. How do you feel about this one, AxSlav? Because... again, it seems a little get out of jail free. I mean, I'm assuming there'll be a cooldown and probably some type of cost related with this, but
yeah, I mean, I think it actually could be a good move. Of course, they have to make it so Nexus can only do it once every 4 minutes or 5 minutes or something, right? And then as well, I think they need to do something where it's not like an instant all your units get away. Maybe there's like a 10-second timer. So if you run into an ambush, you're still gonna lose most of your army. It's not it's not like a total get out jail free card. Maybe it's something where as long as you scout and you see where the units are, you can get out in time. But it shouldn't be an instant thing. Maybe like a 10 to 20 second delay on the recall.
Yeah. Do you think maybe it could be like there's only a certain radius of things that could even be recalled? Like like when you click on scan for your orbital, it gives you that circle. Place this somewhere. What about using that in reverse? Place that circle on top of your units, and whatever's inside that circle gets transferred back.
Yeah, you could make it so it's only 10 units max or something, right? And that would be another way to make it so it's not like this giant army comes in and kills half the base and jumps out. 10 units can do something, but they're not going to be it's not like it's just like a drop ship type thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. The thought of this making Forgate way more viable just horrifies me. I'm going to make nothing but gateway units because I can port them back if things don't work out.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
I'm interested to see if they go forward with that and how Blizzard's going to balance it. And then finally, we get to Kyle's favorite, the Zerg. So, sorry, Kyle, the Viper's blind ability now only works on bio units, so tanks can't get their range reduced to 1. And every Terran out there, you're invited over to my house for a party this weekend. Because that's very relieving.
It makes sense. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, blinding a tank, blinding a Thor, no, there's a guy inside, he has computers. I mean, even Marines are wearing helmets, so I don't know how we're blinding them, but let's not complain about that. I'm happy. I still think the Swarm, this is the Viper.
Right.
That's interesting. Because now he's more of a detector than he was previously, because that ability was really cool. I mean, he still has the grab, right?
Yeah, they haven't even mentioned the get over here Scorpion style thing. But they did say they're getting rid of its detection. They're going to keep it as a pure caster. And then they also said that they'll be taking a look at the Overseer to see what we can do to make his abilities more interesting. Which I kind of like. I mean, I like the Overseer. I don't really have an issue with how it is. But...
well, I think the Overseer, of course, Changeling is an awesome ability. I mean, I love the idea of it. People are using it in the pro levels now, and so every once in a while someone manages to squeeze one in somewhere useful. But what is it? The cover everything in goo so it stops working is not something really any player invests their skills into. You're not gonna, I only have so many actions I can do while a game's going on. To have two overseers just trading out to put goo on something so something can't build, it's an awesome, cool, wicked idea. Like, you totally want to see someone who's just amazing at it and breaks down an entire base in goo, and they can't do anything, but it takes too much action.
Right. And goo, of course, is the technical term for it.
Yes, because I can't remember what's really called.
It's because no one ever uses it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think actually that skill is it's very situational to make it worth that action. But I think there's some cases where it's not being used where it like is huge game changer. Like, I mean, the biggest thing I can think of is every Zerg, when they've played Protoss late game, the thing you worry about is the mothership. And all you have to do is send, one overlord into each of their 4 bases. They might have 4 at that time, most likely. See which Nexus is building it, and then shut it down. And even if you lose some overseers doing it, and most of the time the army can't be, they won't have that many guys guarding it. So you'll probably be able to contaminate at least once before they catch on to it. And even so, in the militia down by 45 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes is just huge. But the other thing about the changelings is, over the last 2 weeks, we've seen them used a ton lately. And mostly, like, they were always for scouting, right? And now they're just trying to figure out that late game, they throw in a whole bunch of them. They use them as army blockers in combination with broodlords. So they'll stop Marines from charging forward. They can kind of mess up the path, stalkers. And, occasionally you see what a Zerg does is they'll send their army, let's say they have like Mutas harassing the main or some Zergs in the main, they'll stick all their changelings on the ramp so that if the opponent tries to, just respond by moving and then looks away, their units will never get up the ramp because they'll be blocked by the changelings. They'll have to go there and kill them all. So I think there's a lot of cool usages of it that we'll see more as players get more confident in their basic macro game, that they can start tacking on these little tactical options as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to see that go away by any means.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you feel like, AxSlav, that this expansion is something that needs to be done for the game? Like, is this, so far, do you feel like it's going to help the game grow in popularity, grow in skill, or is it still too soon? Because if people are still figuring out this late into the game, I mean, we're still amazed every time there's a major tournament what someone brings to it. Are throwing a bunch of new units in it a good idea?
That's a tough question. I mean, I think even if you didn't throw units, we'd continue to advance and you'd see new stuff, you'd see a lot of cool things. But I also think throwing the units can help it accelerate that process. I mean, the biggest thing is, like, look what Broodwar did for StarCraft 1 was a great game, and people were still, coming with new stuff in that. But the Broodwar units, well, they just added so much to it. A lot more depth, I think, especially things like the Lurker and even Dark Templar. Much people complain about them. I think they were a really cool unit in Brood War. So I think it's only going to help as long as they give a good amount of time for the beta test. They don't try to rush it out, right? It's not like it needs to come out instantly. I'd rather see them take an extra half year to a year than they even plan on doing to make sure it's tested fully and it's not going to, it's not going to be broken when it comes out.
Very true.
Although it does kind of scare me because I do enjoy the campaign and I want to see the next part of the story. So damn it, Blizzard, get it out.
There's conflicting desires there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Now, obviously, for you and all pro players, the competitive aspect's a little more important than the single player.
The campaign is pretty awesome, though.
It is.
I'm actually pretty excited for that too. Even though, of course, it's not going to be my main time train as nearly as much as multiplayer, but. No, the first campaign, actually, I heard a lot of people didn't like as much as the original ones, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think they're all crazy because I loved it. And I actually just recently started replaying through it again because I got a brand new computer that can run it on all high settings, and it's freaking gorgeous. All the in-game cutscenes and stuff look great when you have it all turned up.
It would just be such a bummer to be watching a Wings of Liberty game and have a caster or even in your own head say, man, wouldn't that be cool if he was using a swarm host here? And they're like, no, that's silly. We're playing Wings of Liberty. You dolt. Enjoy your campaign. So, I'm glad they're taking their time, too. There's still more Zerg changes, though.
Yes, there is. I was about to ask you, Kyle, what you thought of this next one. They're working on different versions of Nidus Worms, such as a creep spreader or a building attacker. so I'll let you flip out for a moment.
Well, anything that changes the Nidus worm is a happy advancement because seriously, that's a worm, dude. Like, and yes, I don't want medevacs dropping all the Marines at once. Technically, if they're being badasses, they could all jump out at once, or maybe 2 by 2. Either way, they unload one at a time. But this is a freaking worm that's burrowed underground. It's giant, supposedly, and it lets out one unit at a time. Like, seriously, this is sad. So the Nidus Worm, I'm happy to hear anything. There is a really cool, we saw it in the Blizzard Dota, the queen in that game, that was a hero in sort of a Defense of the Ancients game. She could cast a Nidus Worm that just let out broodlings continuously as long as it was there. So that'd be a cool idea, something that's not even meant to transport units, just meant to unleash temporary heck.
Now, wouldn't that be the same as the Swarm Host?
The Swarm Host is actually, from what we saw at BlizzCon anyway, the Swarm Host lets up a few units every 30 seconds. So lets up like 3 little Swarmlings that have impressive health, like in the hundreds. We're not talking a Zergling here.
Well, they would need to if they're only doing 3 at a time every 30 seconds.
Well, yeah, and that's why, but I was very impressed by it. I was expecting something a little more of the lines of infinite free, like Zerglings, but like 10 at a time or something. But no, this is meant to break siege lines, so they got to take a few hits.
Yeah.
But the creep spreading one, that's interesting. How expensive is it going to be? There's too many questions right now to even begin to think of, what it could be used for. I mean, it'd be awesome if someone was just like, I'm going to do it right now. And he just loads up 3 queens in the Nidus Worm and just starts popping up all over the place and just spreading creep. And it'd be a beautiful thing.
Yep. Well, people have done that before. It is, it's fun stuff. Now there is just one last quote I wanted to bring up from Blizzard. They said, "We are currently working nonstop on StarCraft 2 and Blizzard Dota and hope to be able to get Heart of the Swarm out to the public to see sometime in the near future." Now, I don't think this by any means thinks that it's releasing anytime soon, but maybe they'll be doing another press tour, which makes me kind of excited.
Yeah.
I'd like to see where they're at. See some of these thoughts in action. It'd be kind of cool.
And certainly some more, concrete thoughts. It was really cool to see units at BlizzCon, and it was really cool to, have that surprise leaked upon us. But to have every single unit with the stipulation, this may not happen at all, was, kind of sad. And it takes away from any ideas of theory craft or, thinking in advance that could be there. Again,
though, I'd prefer regular updates from them on things that may not make it through as opposed to them just not saying crap for 6 months.
Yes.
So... oh, well, I'm glad they did it. Blizzard, do it more. So, in other news this week, Season 7 has begun as of yesterday, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe it was 2 days ago, but...
anyone get promoted, demoted? AxSlav, did you get, demoted to bronze or something crazy?
Oh, I'm worried about it, man. I haven't played ladder for, 3 weeks or something, so
Yeah.
we'll see. No, I haven't played Season 7 yet. I had NASL match earlier today, and then yesterday I was still trying to recover from drive back from Vegas from IPL. So I'm going to be playing some ladder in a bit. But actually, for me, most of the time I do custom games anyway, so I'm not really too worried about how ladder is going to go.
Yeah, well, that's good. Kyle, how about you? Have you placed yet?
I have not placed yet. As I said, all my time was being taken up catching up on that IPL that was massive. So
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
I'm assuming, still plat. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if your placement match is going to take advantage of the new map making, or is that not happened yet?
Do you call it map making because it's called matchmaking?
I did. I
yes.
was reading matchmaking in front of me, and for some reason
that is going on right now. As a matter of fact, there was an awesome tweet from Idra that I saw on Reddit today that just said, "What the f did Blizzard do to matchmaking?" And it just said, "First critique of matchmaking." I was like, all right, I'll click on it. And sure enough, it was that fantastic quote from Idra. So yeah, I played one game today right before. I was like, I have to place before the show so I can tell everyone what I place. And then I placed gold, and now I'm not too proud. So, anyways, yes, we obviously didn't talk about it last week, but as Kyle just mentioned, there is changes to matchmaking. I wrote it here as upcoming because I wrote it when we got the news, but it's no longer upcoming. It's here. It has happened. Blizzard said that as a one-season experiment, we will be slightly relaxing the matchmaking settings in Season 7 to introduce more variety into the ladder. In practical terms, that means you won't always be evenly matched with your opponent. You'll regularly compete with players at slightly higher or lower skill levels, resulting in what should be a more well-rounded experience. These adjustments to the matchmaking system could also result in some players earning faster league promotions for stringing together wins against higher-ranked opponents. So this is kind of cool. The response has been fairly positive overall from the community. You know, you go on the Reddit, or God forbid, you go onto the official forums. It's been actually surprisingly positive, and I really like this idea. It's kind of nice knowing that I don't always at all times have to be on my A game, because sometimes I want to play StarCraft for fun, but I don't feel like playing 2v2. So that'd be kind of nice. Granted, I guess I could jump in our chat channel and be like, "Hey, who's silver? I feel like creaming somebody."
Well, but in the other grand scheme, of course, now you have to be super on your A game because you might accidentally come up against someone crazy good.
That is true. That is very true. But, you know, there's still the favored and not favored type thing. Although I don't always put a whole lot of stock into that because I don't ladder very often.
But now it means there might be stock in that because now it's such a big window. I mean, being favored could mean you're really favored now.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, I'm going to do something crazy.
Yeah, like I'm going to, you know, I don't know, just do something lazy for this.
I'm going to make nothing but Thors the whole game. Yeah, so that could be interesting. I'm all for this. I'm interested to see how it pans out and what they say at the end of Season 7. So, anyways, that is it for this week's status report. Let's talk about esports. It's time for this week's Eye on Esports.
From StarCast, this is Eye on Esports.
And Eye on Esports today is brought to you by sc2quoteoftheday.com. Daily quotes from the StarCraft 2 community. The site may suck, but the quotes are sick.
I have continued to be amazed by Quote of the Day's activity, persistence. What's the word I'm looking for?
Tenacity.
There you go. Yeah,
that's a nice one.
I was honored. I was their quote. I was one of their quotes this past week from having King Octavius on last week. I was like, oh my god, I'm a quote of the day. That made me so happy. So thank you for that, sc2quoteoftheday.com. IPL 4. This is a good week. This is a good week for esports. If you liked esports, this was a good week to be a fan because we had so much stuff going on and fantastic controversy, which everyone loves, especially Reddit. Let's talk about IPL first before we get into the GSTL shenanigans. So we had some up and comers. We had some people kind of making a splash that we've never really heard of before or haven't really had a strong showing in the past. Scarlet and Illusion, both having pretty strong showings at this IPL, and I had never heard of either of them. So for those of you who do not know, Sasha Scarlett Hostin was one of two breakout stars at this IPL. She took out Prime Bumblebee and almost won against Oz. Oz ended up taking it, but it was very close. She then went to the losers bracket where she won against a Muslim before she was finally knocked out by Golden. So keep an eye on Scarlett because she could end up being the next big thing. That was impressive.
Yeah.
And then and now you were there. You were at IPL 4, Nick. Did you get to see any of these games?
Yeah, actually, I saw Scarlett's games against Carius, Bumblebee Prime. I saw those games, and also I saw our games against the Muslim, and I saw bits and pieces of other games. But those are the other series. I was mostly playing at the time. But she was really impressive. One thing I liked about her play is that there's a lot of people who are newer and they're just really fast, and so they can do well. But those players, sometimes you're not sure if they're going to keep getting better and better, or they might plateau. Whereas with her, her decision-making was very solid. So I think she could definitely, and especially given her history, right? She hasn't practiced very much. She's only played ladder. She hasn't really ground up games with practice partners. So there's a lot of potential for improvement there, which she's already so scary that, if you put potential for improvement on top of that, it's formula for a very, very strong player.
Yeah, indeed. I'm definitely keeping an eye.
I'm really impressed by the fan base for Scarlet because there could have been a lot of random hate that could have come out of this, and it's awesome that people have been as accepting as they are towards this player.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's no other way to say it. She is a transgender. I mean, she was once a man. It's a psychological thing. You know, what are you going to do about it? I don't like, well, I do like donuts, but let's say I didn't like donuts. I mean, you got to understand that someone else might like donuts. I don't like, I don't know. I can't think of anything I don't like. I love everything.
I hate pickles. Does that help your analogy?
There you
in any
go.
way, shape, or form? I don't know.
Garrett doesn't like pickles, but he can put that aside to think that Kyle might like pickles and buy him a pickle. This is going to get a little awkward with the transgender talk going on, but well, moving on. Yeah, so
that did not help your analogy in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, it is good to know that the StarCraft audience is more accepting and more progressive than Dancing with the Stars. There is an analogy I can get behind.
Ah, nice one.
Yeah, indeed. And the show's stupid. God, I hate that show. But I accept that there are people that like Dancing with the Stars. So there's that.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's really good to see that our community can be mature when it counts. Because Lord knows that we've had plenty of immature moments. So, good, great. Good for her. Scarlett, go train and become a horrifying master of StarCraft, because we're all rooting for you. Also, we had Chris Illusion Lee. He beat 3 Code S Koreans. He beat Zenio, Ryung, and Oz. He also beat Kiwikaki. So, damn. That's all I have to say about him. Because, again, had never heard of this guy before. He's definitely another up-and-comer I think everyone should be paying attention to.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't get to catch all of his games, but I'm pretty sure his games against Oz even used mech, which is, if you've heard, a lot of Terrans and Protosses will both say that trying to play mech against Protoss is a big no-no, but, Oz is top 5 PvT in the world, so to beat him with that is just really, really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that definitely made a few of our listeners' days. So we've got a lot of mech fans that listen to the show. So now AxSlav, how did you do? Now you were there and you competed. So how was your experience with IPL?
I love watching the games. Vegas is awesome. I didn't play very well. I beat my first round was a local Masters player who I got through, and then I went against Bong Bong Prime, who's a Code S Zerg, and my games are similar close. I actually think I had a stronger early and mid game versus him. I definitely got ahead in army size and macro and things like that. But his late game control was better than mine. He had the Broodlord Infestor versus the Mothership Archon, Colossi, Templar, whatever. And he knew how to deal with Vortex, and his control is very good. So I kind of fell apart in the late game there a bit. And then in loser bracket, I played another, I think it was Stillborn, who's like a top Protoss Masters player, not known player, but strong, and I got through him. And then I ran against Druby, who I lost to, which was a little bit disappointing because he's a good player, but he's someone I think he's from NA, and I kind of feel I should be beating most of the guys from NA. So losing to him was a little bit of a disappointment. Not my best tournament, but I had some good games in there, and I'll be looking to do better next time.
Yeah, sounds like you still represented. I have to ask, though, because I've done some theater acting in the past, and you go and see a theater show, and you're like, oh, man, I could act circles around this guy. You must go into these tournaments, be sitting there and watching some Protoss play and be going, oh, man, like, I could play around, like, I could be winning that up there. I could be winning this.
Yeah. And it's especially with everyone having unique skill sets. I can even watch, Code S Protosses, and I'll be like, oh, right there, I'd be doing this better than he is, Yeah. And of course, get the feeling, I could be winning this, and then you don't actually realize that, that one step you do better, but the other 100, you might have fell apart. He would never get to that point. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. Sometimes you're like, wow, if I was in that spot, I would be winning, but you have to do other things to get to that spot, and it's all about consistency, not just any given one moment.
Yeah. So
do you feel like the IPL clearly was a really big success for, everyone who watched it. I mean, certainly there was a couple of stream issues, and there was the lag issue we'll get into, but for the most part, it was a big success. Do you feel like the tournament structure as it currently is conducive for players to get what they can out of a game, because clearly it's going to come down to some chance. You don't get to pick who you're playing against. Not everyone gets to play everybody.
Yeah.
So, is it a good system?
Yeah, I think the tournament structure was good. They have the open, they have the open bracket into the pools, and with that long in an open bracket, there's no one guaranteed to get through. So it's good to have some of the favorites and the top guys already into the pools ahead of time, just so you know for sure you have some big names up there. And then the group play where everyone, the guys who are the big names who get into that group play all get a good fair share of games. It is, every once in a while someone like I felt Chachi, who I thought was one of the top couple guys of that tournament, he kind of got a little bit poor luck being thrown into the group with all Terrans, and that's his weakest matchup. So, but that happens to everyone, right? And, it just really, overall the format was really great, I think.
That's great to hear. Real quick announcement for everyone listening live. The Twitch chat room is down, so we will not be able to take questions live for us or for AxSlav. Luckily, Octane Pro, our producer, has created a thread over on Team Liquid. Go over there under the StarCraft 2 section and post any questions for AxSlav that you want answered at the end of the show. We'll start pulling from that thread since the chat room is not functioning. So thanks, Octane Pro. You're the man throwing that together on the fly. We'll be, of course, doing the questions at the end of the show, as always.
Good, it's not just me. This thing's been spinning for...
It's not just you. I used to have that problem all the time on my laptop, and I just assumed it was something wrong with my laptop. But, it seems to be down for everyone tonight, because we're all getting messaged like crazy. Oh, the chat room's down. So, go over to Team Liquid. The finals. So we have some finals to talk about. The IPL 4 finals did indeed happen. They were between Alive versus Squirtle, so we had a good old-fashioned TVP going on.
Now, hang on a sec. Let's back up here. Nesty. Oh, my goodness. So excited. As a Zerg player, oh, man, it was a delight to see him do as well as he did for once. Where did he find it? He apparently complained about being tired, but apparently that means he's winning.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's so much variance in StarCraft too. He didn't complain about being tired, and if you watch his games and then watch his games from about 5-6 months ago when he was really on top of his game, I think he's still. I think it's a little bit too early to wave the Nesties back at the head of the Swarm flag, because I don't. He played well, but I don't think there were still some holes in his play. He wasn't quite up to how he was playing when he was at the top. But it was just a perfect tournament for him. The few holes he had, for the most part, his opponents weren't taking advantage of. I think a lot of people were tired. The open bracket was long, and it's Vegas, so you're not supposed to sleep in Vegas. It's just not what you do.
Yeah, no, you don't do that.
The tournament worked out great for him, and it was nice to see him doing so well.
It was interesting to see his play, though, because you're right. Clearly he channeled a sort of DRG Muta energy. Clearly he's been playing with Mutas way longer than DRG had, but his caliber of Muta play was great. But all his other victories seemed to come from mistakes, which made the Zerg look kind of bad. Like, Nesty's over. It's, great, a wonderful Baneling connects. Like, everything's wonderful. Nesty is the best. There's even a point at the bottom of the screen where they said, Nesty has won 3 GSL champions and invented the universe. Like, it was interesting. There's, like, the super serious, like, GOM TV, like, wall of stats. And then there's, like, the blind date IPL facts they're putting up.
Yeah, yeah.
He likes flying walks on the beach.
Those ones help keep it light, I think those are cool.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm happy for him as well. It's going to be interesting to see him, maybe hopefully return to glory. Same with July. July was making a splash at GSL, but then he didn't do particularly well this week. So I don't know. It'd be nice to see them kind of get back into their groove.
Yeah.
So, anyways, the finals weren't. What do you guys think? I didn't think they were particularly awesome. They were a little one-sided, I thought.
Yeah, that was the second finals. There was the first best of 5 was a little more back and forth.
Yeah.
But then since Squirtle ended up winning that from being down, he was actually Alive won the first 2 games, and Squirtle came back winning the next 3. Mostly off of Alive making a little bit of time mistakes, and then the second finals, maybe Squirtle, it looked like he was a little bit tired out, so just going for kind of easier wins. Like DT Rush is just it's not good against a good Terran. He was just hoping that Live would be tired and make a mistake, and it felt like he didn't have his full strength in the game. He was just looking for some easy ways out.
Yeah, well, that seems a pretty standard kind of thing that can happen with these big mega marathon tournaments, where the winner out of the winner's pool gets to sit back for like 6 games or at least 3 matchups or something, and get to watch everyone go. Well, I mean, basically, Squirtle was in that booth for a good long time, just getting out from Nesty and moving straight on.
Yeah. And even before Nesty, he had a matchup before this, so it was, because he actually Squirtle lost in the first round of the winner's bracket and championship, so he had, the scenic route to the finals, all the way through the winner's bracket. And he was actually, he actually came through the whole open bracket as well, so.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's impressive.
I think he was the only player in the top 8 who came from the open bracket. So that was impressive that, he wasn't too tired out from all the games on Friday.
No, that's probably, I mean, that's got to be the reason why at these big marathon ones, I mean, Alive, granted, is not like our new young upstart kid like Lee Knock or any of the others were, but often we see, young kids kind of win these tournaments because they probably have more stamina to keep playing a game all day. I certainly feel like when I was in middle school, I was playing games like 8 hours straight, woohoo, no break. And nowadays I'm like, man, I should get some sun. I need to go grocery shopping. And I think those are needs, but in reality, like if I had to sit and play video games all day, I would be mentally exhausted.
Yes, especially something like 1v1 StarCraft.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more intense than Angry Birds.
Exactly. You can play Farmville all day. You can, you can mess with your crops and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the crops aren't trying to, at the same time, outplay you and kill you. So, about that. So, anyways, Live took home a good chunk of change. He went home with 40 grand, and Squirtle went home with 16,000. So,
well, that's how much they won. Now the question is how much did they lose in Vegas, right?
There you go. Gets you Live, just takes the 40,000, goes over to the roulette table, and just puts it on one number. Go. Crap. All right, I'm leaving.
Guess I got to win another tournament now. What you gonna do?
Well, I'm thinking that too, because you got a bunch of guys, and well, I mean, people say StarCraft's like poker, and you got a bunch of some mathematicians, some more creative than others, but StarCraft players seem like the kind of people who would uptalk their advantages in Vegas in their head for a while.
Yeah,
they're the ones who can fool themselves into thinking that with enough skill you can actually win at roulette, right?
Absolutely.
That's not,
I mean, this is just like, insert quote here of the time I didn't scout in that game and I won, so it's just like not scouting and I could still win.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. I'm not even going to begin to point out the ways that's a wrong statement. But all right.
Reach across the poker table and slap down their hand, scout, and see their hand.
So we weren't fortunate enough to go to IPL for me mostly because they announced it the day I bought my tickets to go to Columbus for MLG, because I would have totally rather gone to Vegas than Columbus. No offense, Columbus, Ohio. I just would have rather gone to Vegas. Did you come away with any crazy stories? Did Stefano try and steal Mike Tyson's tiger, or any just craziness from Vegas that you're allowed to talk about?
I actually didn't do anything too crazy. I just kind of hang around and watch games. Of course, there's always drinks ever in Vegas, so there's some of that going on. Yeah. But I was actually, one of my friends had a bachelor party in Vegas 3 weeks ago, so I kind of did all my craziness, where it's supposed to be the bachelor party, and
got it out of the way.
I got out of the way, so this tournament was just all about the games for me.
Okay, so you got in, you got to Vegas this time, and you're like, psh, I did all this crazy crap 3 weeks ago. Let's play some games.
Yeah, pretty much. For me, Vegas is maybe, I don't know, I enjoyed it, but more than, I'd be happy going there once every couple of years or something. It's not, don't need to go there all the time for me.
Yeah, I've never been. I'll have to make it a point to get there at some point. I had a 3-hour layover there once, and that was about it. Not very interesting.
Oh, it's something you gotta do at least a couple times.
Yeah, indeed. Hopefully, once I actually have some money to gamble.
Yeah.
So we had a second set of finals at at the same location this weekend. Saturday night we had the GSTL finals, which was it's kind of a big deal. It's a big deal anytime a Korean finals they decide to have it, on American soil. As we
Not
saw
to
last
mention,
year.
I mean, this wasn't like the Blizzard company saying, we are holding a con. Would you like to use our game at our convention? I mean, this is actually them kind of going out of their way, having it in Vegas. Like, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess let's dive right into that. The disconnect fiasco is what I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
Okay, I apparently missed this whole thing because I wasn't clear on when the GSTL finals were starting. So I'm going to admit it right now, I was in Warcraft playing with my girlfriend when Randley gets on and says, dude, Marine King's playing Parting. What are you doing? And wow, get the hell off and watch this game. I'm like, oh, shit. So I go and I get some food and whatever, and I took a little bit of time and I turn it on, and it's Marine King versus Parting, and it's like the beginning of a game, and I'm like, huh. All right, I guess there was just some type of delay that I didn't know about. The next day, I get on Reddit, and this just firestorm is just about this disconnect. Now, I apparently missed it. It was a game right before I tuned in. So, Marine King went up against Parting, and Parting just had a massive lead, apparently. StarTale was up 2-1 against Prime at this point, and the general consensus from fans is that Parting was way too far ahead when this disconnect happened, and the referee should have called the game in his favor, but this is not what they did. This was not the case. AxSlav, did you actually get to sit and watch these games?
I watched some of them. I mean, I was kind of wandering around Vegas a bit too, but it was definitely. I mean, Parting had that. Not 100%, but like 95% won pretty much. So that was kind of that was a big. When you have the game that much when you have to regame, it's tough on you. And that game probably a lot of people would say decided the match, right? If Parting beat Marine King, then it would have been up 3-1, and Marine King is Prime's ace, right? They have some other good players, but the odds of one of the other guys being a lot of people in a row is not super likely. And what's actually was kind of funny is that happened. Then in the first later in the IPL Grand Finals, in the first best of 5, Squirtle versus Alive Game 5. Or no, it wasn't. It was Squirtle versus NST. Sorry, it was the loser bracket finals. Squirtle had a massive lead versus NST in their 5th game, and there was another disconnect, and they had to regame that too. So StarTale was. Squirtle ended up winning the regame as well, but if he would have lost that, it would have been double whammy on StarTale for their players.
Yeah.
So not their day, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. So when this disconnect happened, "We want LAN" was chanted by the crowd, and Mike, the CEO of Blizzard, Mike Morheim, and Dustin Browder, he's the lead designer on StarCraft 2, were both in the crowd. And ESFI World got an awesome picture of Dustin Browder's face when the disconnect happened, and you can just, I almost want to have a contest, like comic book bubble his thoughts right there.
Oh, it's so, he is just in absolute shock and horror, and Mike Morheim behind him has poker face.
You can
100%.
tell. You can tell he's the CEO because he's just like, this is the face I have to make whenever something completely out of my control happens.
I'm seeing it. Nothing is wrong. No, clearly, yes, there's a Blizzard greed, of course, every time this happened. You're greedy. I used to spawn Brood War on my friend's computer and we'd play all night. You guys are insane. Well, yes, they do want to sell copies of their games. Yes, they want you to be connected online so they know you're using an official copy of the game. But ultimately, this brings to light a game that's, might be coming out soon, currently in beta, Dota 2, which has a reconnect feature. And if you leave a game willingly and then calm down 10 minutes later, or, accidentally, and disconnect, you can come back up to 10 minutes later and rejoin that game.
Yeah, that's it, and now everyone's kind of, it's an expanded pause feature, more or less. And that's now kind of what everyone's tossing around as an idea that they would like added. Now, the argument was made that LAN wouldn't have saved this And then a Reddit user was like, no, actually, it would have, and so this is spitballing. AxSlav, what do you think? I mean, obviously, it'd just be nice to have LAN. I mean, I don't think it's a game breaker. I still think, it would be nice to have. I just don't see Blizzard ever putting it in because they just seem to be kind of bullheaded about it. They're just like, no, we're not putting LAN in. Get over it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand Blizzard. Like, of course, as a player, you would prefer to have LAN. Like, obviously, it would make the tournaments would all be better. The competitive play would all be better. There'd be no delay, right? When you go over through the Blizzard server, there's a little bit of built-in delay, even when you're sitting next to your opponent. So that the quality of play would go up at tournaments. But I also, I kind of understand Blizzard's standpoint as well, where, they need to make a return on this amazing game, or else, or else they're going to just do more WoW stuff. So, which, WoW's all right, but StarCraft is even better. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion either way on it. Like, LAN is nice, but it's I don't know the difficulties of implementing the extended pause thing either. So I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, a lot of the cons that people are drumming up about the extended pause feature is, if it only saves like every 10 seconds or something, you would then know when you got back in what happened for the next 10 seconds, 30 seconds, minute. I guess it's just kind of, it's a pro and con. Would you rather have to just rely on a referee to call the game for you, or would you rather have an extended period of time where you know what's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, though, it seems like players have been kind of refereeing themselves. I mean, we saw this happen in a number of times, and some of the players are like, no, let's rematch. Like, I don't want this to be my win. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, but when it comes to a big tournament, most of the time people, are going to side with whichever, the player who is losing will want to regain, the player who is winning will just want to win, right? So, you can't really have the players referee themselves when there's money on the line. It doesn't really work so well.
Yeah, it's a little hard to do that. Now, looking at the history of when GSL has had to make a call like this, they've never ended a game from a disconnect. They've always aired on the side of rematch, apparently.
Yeah.
So I read. So
and that was the same with IPL. There's actually a ton of disconnects during there was some power outages that were going on with some of the computers. So, and those are all regamed as well, even some games where someone did have a massive advantage. I think that's kind of the status quo right now.
Yeah, and with power outages, I mean, not even LAN would have saved that. If power goes out, the power goes out. You're kind of screwed.
Yeah, you're done.
And this is also just on the hotel side as well, that this hotel was not made to hold a tournament of this magnitude.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Although, esports isn't exactly is still catching on in the U.S., so I wouldn't say that any place in America is really built for a tournament of that magnitude. I don't know. I think it's good to keep a level head and just because, as we just said, if this were a power outage, you're going to have to resort to referees anyway. So
well, and I mean, I worked in a horse barn for 4 years. Like, money changes things here. I would not shovel horse poop willingly in my after schools in middle school if I weren't being paid for it. So, our opinions, of course, being like, well, it's not that big. I've gotten disconnected all the time on ladder. It's, money changes things.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, way to bring the horse poop analogy full circle, because I was giving you an eyebrow there for a while. Like, where is he going with this? So, well, all right. We, of course, have links to all of this bonanza in the show notes, as well as the Reddit post I was mentioning by Leadline, to give him credit. He was the guy who was giving a very educated argument for why LAN would have saved that match. All that aside, though, Marine King still deserves a ton of respect, I think, for these finals, because he went through a ton of really good players. He went through Parting, Bombers, Squirtle, and Curious to go on and win GSTL for Prime. And he secured himself the title of MVP in the process.
Yeah, so, I mean, Marine King's making a really strong case for him being the best player in the world right now. It's he's definitely top, 3, I think. It's pretty, he's just been winning everything lately. And, even TVT is known to be probably his weakest matchup by a little bit. But, I mean, his game versus Bomber, right? That was You know,
It was awesome. That was probably my
yeah.
favorite match of the whole finals. And if you guys
Exactly.
didn't out there, within the sound of my voice, haven't seen it, if you only watch one damn game, go watch Marine King versus Bomber.
Yep.
I don't care what you say about TVT. Yeah, that was a hell of a match. I'm biased. I really like Marine King. He's one of my favorite players, especially as a Terran player. He's just insane to watch. So good on him. Just LAN issues aside, you go Marine King. That was a hell of a game, or hell of a finals. So, in other news, the NASL season 3 starts tonight. What is it, 6 p.m. Pacific? So that's in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Do we need to get you out of here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're competing in NASL, correct?
Yes, that's correct. But my games aren't going to be. They're not till Friday. So
Okay. All right,
got
very
it.
cool. Do you know who you're up against?
my first match is against TLO.
Okay.
And actually, I mean, if you want me to go through my whole division, I could.
Yeah,
do
sir.
that.
Man, the floor is yours. We'd love to.
All right.
It's not every day we get a pro player on, so by all means, tell us about your upcoming
Yes.
tournaments.
So I'm in Division 3 in NASL Season 3, which is starting this week. Of course, today's the first day for Division 1. And the one cool thing I love about NASL is that it's a match a week, so it's almost similar to GSL where you can actually prepare for a match, and I think you'll see a little bit a higher quality of play, although a lot of it is going to be online, which may detract a little bit. But my division's one of the most balanced. It's 3v Trace, which, of course, I would rather have them all be Protoss, because that's my strongest, but
Yeah.
you can only say what you want. I think it's a pretty tough division. Other Protoss besides me are Huck and Mana, both two of the top couple non-Korean Protosses. The Terrans I have is Gonzi, Rain, and Straylock. So Gonzi's like one of the very top Korean Protosses. Rain is maybe just a little bit below him. He's a very good Korean Protoss, but he's not quite up there with the very top of the guys. And Straylock's a very good European Terran. Oh, I meant to say Terrans, not Protosses. Sorry. And Straylock, I haven't heard too much about him lately, but I know he's strong. I've ran into him a ladder before. I played him in ESWC. So the Terran lineup is actually the one I'm most worried about. It's my weakest matchup, and Gonzi, of course, is insane, and Rain and Straylock are both very good too.
Yeah, Gonzi's
then-
been doing very well.
Oh yeah. I think Gonzi's probably the strongest player in my division. The three Zergs in my division are Sen, TLO, and Vibe. Everyone knows TLO. He's definitely a good player. He has a wacky style, so it's going to be a little bit weird. He's always fun to play with.
Yeah.
Sen is just a beast. Yeah, he's been kind of flying under the radar the last couple tournaments. He hasn't been showing up to them, but he's for the longest time until Stefano busted out, most people are saying he's probably the best non-Korean Zerg. And now it's hard to tell exactly where he stands because you haven't seen him playing it in a few months. But he is. Every time I played him in the past, I've just been totally squashed. So hopefully I'll be able to, things have changed. I've gone a lot better versus Zerg lately, so we'll see if I can do well against him. And then Vibe is a great player from North America for Itzgosu. He's a name that people don't know as much as they should. He's definitely very good. So it's gonna be a fun group.
Nice. So is it?
That
It,
is
start, it does
go
start
for it,
at. I was just confirming the time. Is it 6 p.m. every night?
Yes.
6 p.m. Pacific.
Well, actually, I know mine are. The ones that are on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday, I'm not positive, actually.
Okay, I would assume weekends are probably a different time.
Yeah, I would assume they're a little bit earlier. But the Wednesday, because it used to be during the week, now they switch it, so it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday are off. But I would assume the weekends are a little bit earlier. I haven't, I'm selfish, don't check my own schedule. So.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, since I'm the most important player, everyone just watch me Fridays at 6 p.m. give or take. Because I might not be the first match that day.
Yeah. That's sweet, man. Best of luck to you. I like TLO too, but go whoop his bearded butt. Is he still bearded? Has he shaved that thing off yet?
Not as far as during IPL he was still bearded. I don't know if he got enough points at IPL. I don't know how close he is to his point goal to when he can start shaving it, but he's definitely he's starting to look like Tom Hanks from Castaway pretty much.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I saw him at MLG, and I hadn't seen him since BlizzCon 2010. And at BlizzCon 2010, he was at the Team Liquid after party in a suit, looking very spiffy. And then at MLG Columbus, I just like, that is a haggard-looking homeless man. And then, oh, wait. Oh, God, that's TLO. He's got a Team Liquid shirt on. So, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, that's a stacked group. But also it's interesting to note here for this North American Star League Season 3, how much the player pool or the races have changed up, because we have 14 Protoss, 15 Terrans, and 16 Zergs. That sounds backwards from a year ago.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. The Zergs are definitely a lot more prevalent. A lot of it was because they had all those qualifiers that a lot of the Europeans did very well. And at that time, Europe was dominated by Zergs. Now it's changing up a bit, but I think that was, the Zergs are doing so well in Europe where they had those qualifiers. Is probably one of the main reasons we see influx of Zerg players.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about NASL, I think people might be interested in, is the map pool is very unique. They have some of the older maps like Shattered Temple, which isn't really used too much anymore.
Yeah.
Belshire Beach Winter. Some of the maps, there's a lot of maps that people consider not super balanced, but there's a lot of them, so it'll make a lot of interesting games, I think. You got Dual Side still in there. And then, of course, there's two new maps, Ohana and Odyssey, which, like, at least from a Protoss perspective, I can give a lowdown on new maps. Ohana is great and Odyssey's terrible. So, we're gonna see some interesting games there.
Nice.
Ohana looks almost, well, I mean, this is just from first glance, of course, but it looks a lot like Belshire Beach, not only in the tile set, but kind of the way that the third and the second interact, except for the fact that there's rocks in between the third now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's basically like Belshire, except you can go from a natural straight to your third through a back ramp. Means you can take a third without having to walk out in the open middle and get swarmed by, tons of units.
Yeah.
And
I am biased towards all beach things because they remind me of Halo.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
that's totally fine. Except if it's Belshire.
Gotcha.
And I can understand your opinion of Odyssey here. It looks like, well, in stark contrast to the last one having a pretty nice third, this third is all down ramp and looks pretty rough.
And it's if you want to move between your natural and third, it's kind of like Antigua is a giant wide open area, but also the third is open onto one side as well. It's definitely it's a map you're going to see a lot of 2-base diamonds on, at least from Protoss. At least specifically Protoss for a Zerg.
And they're keeping the gold expansions in NASL.
Yes. I think MLG just switched their maps back to having all the golds as well. I think people are saying, okay, now with the mules not in the picture, we can throw them back in. I don't know. I think I don't mind golds too much as long as I really don't think there should be golds that a Zerg can go hatch first on easily, because that really messes up the ZVP matchup. It's like, if you go Forge Expo and they hatch first at the gold, like, you're just dead. And so, I mean, of course you can say don't go Forge Expo, but, I mean, on most maps it's kind of the established, the other builds most people agree are just a lot weaker. So to have a certain set of maps where, like, your main builds just aren't that good, it just makes them such unique style maps that I don't think it's great. That's something they added later on in Brood War. Once everyone was really good, they started adding maps that had, like, everyone played uniquely on, for fun, to have a lot of cool matches and unique stuff. But at this point, I don't think the game's developed enough to the point where you can throw in a new map and expect people to put in the 40, 50 hours it takes just on this one specific map to figure out the unique builds you need to do on that. Right now I'm still trying to figure out just their basic builds. So I don't think it's time yet for, kind of weird maps.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's nice. It just sets it, apart enough from all the other tournaments just to throw in a few wild card maps.
Yeah.
And the gold. I'm okay with the golds, obviously, except for the fast hatch from Zerg, or you can pull a Marine King and just lift and land on the gold right away.
Yeah, that makes fun games though. So.
Indeed, it does.
Yeah.
I was going crazy for that at MLG Orlando. That was a hell of a game. So, well, very cool. I'll definitely be tuning in. I really like NASL. I don't want to. It seems like it gets the kind of the redheaded stepchild vibe from the community, but I really like NASL. Like last year, it just seemed like, well, I'm on my lunch. I want to watch StarCraft. Well, NASL always has something I missed or something to watch. They were putting out so much content.
Yeah, and it's going to be nice coming out now. For the past 2 months, that void was a little bit filled by the team leagues, the IGN team league and the EG team league. They'd always be going on, and you could catch. But now, those are over right now, so it'll be, NSL will be great to fill in that everyday role.
Yeah.
Oh, and other than Bob, you're the only American in your group, so USA. If you need someone to chant for AxSlav.
There you go. You guys have no choice now. You have to root for AxSlav.
What are you going to
do? Me and Bob.
Yeah, mostly you.
Mostly me. But, a couple out there for Vibe is okay, too. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
But more for me.
Yeah, indeed. There you go. We know TLO's cool, but you have to root for AxSlav. So, well, very cool. Well, I think that does it for Ion Esports. Let's get into feedback and ask AxSlav some questions.
Incoming transmission.
Patching you through. The Yamato is loaded, and so am I.
Welcome to Feedback for this week. This is where we take your feedback, take your questions and whatnot from the live chat room and also from emails. The live chat room is back up and running, so chat room, go nuts with your questions. In the meantime, we have accrued a nice little bunch of questions here from the Team Liquid thread and our own forums. So first up, AxSlav, do you feel that 4-Gate is still a viable build, or is it a thing of the past?
I think it's a build that on every map except for PvP on Tal'Dar, Molter, or Belshire, map with no ramp, it's a build, I think it's mostly build at past, because it can only work if your opponent makes a couple mistakes that they shouldn't be making. I think you may see people use it occasionally, kind of like you saw Squirrel do the one base TT in the grand finals. When players are getting tired and it's like, okay, this guy's a little tired. If he makes a little mistake in the early game, he'll die to 4-Gate. So I'm just going to throw it out there and hope he makes that mistake. So it's going to sneak in every once in a while when people forget about it. But it's not going to be a build you see around a lot. I think, one thing people saw, I think it was Seed beat Bong Bong and Code S just about 2 weeks ago with the 4-Gate. And it kind of worked because Bong Bong just reacted horribly, right? And that might happen sometimes if people start to forget how to deal with it. You'll see people, some players will throw it in once or twice just to, hoping their opponent will react incorrectly. But right. I think as far as a mainstream build, it's definitely in the past.
Yeah. Now, we talked a little bit about your training and your practice. You said you tend to custom more than ladder, but what's a schedule, like a training schedule, usually look for you? How many hours a day do you play StarCraft? It's
pretty variable depending on if there's a good tournament I want to watch some games from and how much I'm coaching. Usually I play between probably about 4 and 6 hours of actual games a day, and then the rest is watching games and coaching, things like that. And it's mostly custom games. So a lot of times I have a day where I want to work on this matchup. And I go down my Skype list and find, let's say when Zerg, I'll go through all the Zergs on my Skype list and try to get 10 games with 4 different Zergs or something like that. And that way and then the next day I'll work on different matchups. So I like focusing on a specific matchup when I practice instead of just trying to throw in games and hope I get better. And then even in that matchup, I'll be like, okay, I want to get this build down, this transition down. I want to, work out of a couple things and work on in those games.
All right, cool. What Infinity 7 teammates do you practice with the most?
I practice a lot with J Echo, Pyre, Sandbox. I haven't gone too many games with Ensure yet. I played them some, but I guess I've been trying to play some more games with them, but we haven't been on at the same time. And I haven't played much of Crazy Moving because he's in Korea, so it's a little bit more difficult with the times.
Yeah.
But yeah, J Echo, Sandbox, and Pyre are probably 3 I play the most with, and they're great players. They're fun to practice with. Yeah, I think J Echo is he did really well last MLG. I think he's going to be a he's definitely one of the ones to look up for doing very, very well. I mean, they're all going to do well, but I think he's kind of leading the pack right now.
Cool. Enigmatic37 asks, did you learn anything new about Protoss strategy watching IPL?
Well, I watch a lot of Squirtle games, and I think one thing is sometimes I feel like I have to do something to get an advantage. And one thing Squirrel does very well is he just plays a basic game, and he waits for his opponent to make a mistake, and then he just kills them. So, I think maybe this applies to all the races, but something I need to do more is not, like, sometimes I end up getting behind and making mistakes and taking risks, because I'm like, okay, I need to do something to try to win the game, whereas sometimes a good approach, too, is just making sure you don't lose it and wait for because no one's perfect, right? Everyone's going to make a mistake, and being ready to pounce on them when they do. So I think that's something I need a little more methodical and style of play. And like the only thing Squirrel did is he doesn't do anything crazy, right? He doesn't take a fast third. He doesn't get upgrades ridiculously fast. He doesn't tech ridiculously fast. He just makes sure he doesn't die. And then he just waits, and he hopes his opponent will make mistakes. And if they don't, he'll be behind. He'll probably lose the game. But, at the level right now, no one's playing perfectly, right? So they are going to make those mistakes, and then he'll go and kill them.
That reminds me a lot of the way, I mean, Nesty was making a lot more mistakes than Squirtle was, but Nesty definitely seemed like, if I can just get the mutas out, then I can look for mistakes. Like, that was, kind of how he kept coming back from it.
Yeah.
And mentioning the upgrades, this past IPL, like, I remember, I feel like I'd turn away for 2 minutes, like, oh, let me eat some cereal here. Everyone has three upgrades, like, it's done already. It's insane how fast people are hammering those out now.
Yeah, Terrans are actually starting to go a little bit opposite, but besides Terrans, people are definitely cranking out the upgrades, which is one of the things I noticed, like, why Squirrel style works so well is because none of the Terrans playing against him actually ever got upgrades. It would be like 15 minutes and they'd be 1-0, like especially alive. And then I was watching some of the GSL games from last night, and it was a similar trend that the Terrans are going more away from upgrades, which is, but I mean the Protoss Protoss love their Chrono Boost, so
yeah,
definitely hammering out those.
Trying to think back to the Marine King games now, because it seemed like at MLG, Marine King was like going double engineering bay almost every game and just cranking them out. Now, did he drop the E-bays in the GSTL finals? I don't even remember now.
I don't think he was. I'm not 100%. I mean, I've seen so many games the last couple of days. They kind of all. But I don't think he was. I think it's like, I guess maybe they're less patient. They're like, let's win in 10 minutes, and I don't know what's going on, but
yeah, it'll be a little more aggressive and forsake some upgrades. So that's interesting. It's a quick metagame shift.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna last because as we saw, like especially the Live versus Squirtle in their first best of 5, every game Squirtle won was just because the Live actually never got upgrades. For the most. Actually, not all of them, but one of the games he won because the Live fed him 4 medevacs, and then the other one, and another one was just no upgrades. So.
Yeah. Octane Pro asks, have you ever been disconnected from a tournament match personally? And if so, how was that handled?
I've actually been lucky enough to never have that problem. So,
oh, really?
But I've seen it happen to a lot of people, and it's just always a regame. And the guy who's winning is always a little bit upset about it, but I guess it's just how it's done.
Yeah. That's no good. And then my Lotus, I believe is this guy's name. How do you feel about the current state of PvT late game? Do you feel it's as heavily Protoss favored as some claim? Or if not, what realistic options do you feel a late game Terran has against late game Protoss Deathball?
I don't think it's as heavily favored as a lot of people think. I mean, it's hard to say because at the way at top level, people just have a lot of Terrans have good enough micro that they can win, and then they don't look for other options. Like, for example, Polt has amazing biocontrol, but he often loses late game versus Protoss because he neglects his ghosts. He'll make them, but he doesn't use them quite as well as some other top Terrans. So that's why you see Polt do exceptionally versus Protoss in the mid game, then the super late game, you sometimes start to slip behind a bit. So it's, if you can combine great ghost control, because all their spells do outrange all the Templar spells. So if you're perfectly spot on with those, you can deal with the storms, which is, I mean, the thing everyone complains about is storm, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I hate storms with a burning passion.
But that's so hard for someone who's not at that top level that I think a great option is actually that's super underused is using siege tanks. And a lot of people complain about 0-0 tanks aren't gonna siege tanks don't need upgrades that much. I'm sorry, maybe you can get like one attack if you want, but they still you can have 3 siege tanks and one shot will kill 4 Templar. Right? It's not and with 13 range. It's a lot easier to control siege tanks to deal with Templar than it is to use Ghosts, I think.
A lot of it seems to be just a psychological aspect, too, of being hit by a siege tank. While it may not do any damage, you're like, whoa, don't want to be standing there.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, but it's psychological, and also there's such a good... every Terran, siege tank is their go-to anti-infestor, right? And Templar are slower than infestors. So you would think it would be even easier to counter. Of course, Protoss units are a little more... The other units are a little more sturdy and not as vulnerable tanks. But, and people are like, oh, it's so immobile. But it's not like you're going to mass a whole bunch of siege tanks. You just throw in 8 to 10 like you do for a Surg in your late game army. And the rest of it's, Marauder, Marine, a couple Ghosts, Medivacs. It's like a late game addition that I think will help out a lot of Terrans who aren't quite at the top level. It's a little bit easier just to shift click Templar than it is to micro all the Ghosts.
Yeah. Ramlet asks, he says, I know in the past game, or in the past you were on Team EG and played a lot of games with LZ Gamer, and he even used to play mech in TVP, before we even saw it being viable. What are your thoughts on mech in TVP, and do you feel it's plainly unviable, or that players are just too unopposed to trying to figure it out because of the simplicity of bio and how explored/progressed it has become?
I think it's definitely the latter. I think there's, people... I've been looking at a lot of these PvT mech threads, and everyone's like, oh, mech is immobile, another word versus Protoss. And it's like, instead of thinking about the ways you can deal with mobility, right, you can build sensor towers like you do versus Surg, right? You can have, a lot of people can play on Warp Prism, right? But you have 1 sensor tower and 2 patrolling Vikings, and there's no Warp Prism that can hit you from, half the map. You have that whole, you have this huge area zoned out where sensor tower will see it and the Vikings can respond, and maybe it'll drop 1 Zeld off, but your Hellions can kill that. It's not going to be a large warp in. So I think there's a lot of, and like I said, Illusion beat Oz with it, right? And Illusion's a great player, but a lot of people would say, oh, Oz was just caught off guard and didn't react well, and that's probably true, right? I bet if Oz practiced versus mech, he would be able to beat Illusion's mech. And that's nothing against Illusion. It's just that Oz is, Codas Protoss, right? Illusion's a great player too, but I do think that mech is viable at equal levels of skill, but it's just bio's so much easier. Bio you don't have to think; you just kind of TA move and micro, and you don't have to worry about most of the game. There's no thinking; it's just only when there's maybe you want to throw a drop or 2. But whereas mech, you constantly have to analyze your position and where units are spread around the map at every point in the game. So it's a little bit harder. It takes a lot more practice. And it's unnecessary. People only do what they need to do to win, and bio works great. You can win at bio at every level of skill. At every level of skill, you can win playing bio versus Protoss, so why even do anything else?
Yeah, that's why I find TVT so interesting, is it almost forces a mech positioning battle, which is very interesting to me. So I'd like to see a shift to that versus Protoss. And in theory, to me, a non-pro player, it just makes sense, since Protoss tend to have to fight in a ball. It's 1 unit, and mech play usually does very well against attack coming from 1 angle. You would think it would function correctly, but
and siege tanks are actually good against everything on the ground. Even Immortals. Once you get past about 12 siege tanks, they become cost-efficient against Immortals. And this is just pure siege tank versus pure Immortal, the hardest counter in the game, and it still isn't even a super hard counter. And of course, when you add in Banshees and Hellions and all the support. So I definitely think there's a lot of room for it to be effective.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Kind of interested to see where that goes. Chancellor Lee asks, what is your favorite 2v2 strategy? I guess when you do play 2v2.
I like to play Terran in twos. It's a nice break from playing Protoss, and it's just siege tanks are like insanely strong in 2 versus 2. If you think about how strong they are in 1 versus 1, and then imagine if you had a meaty unit in front of it. Like Terran doesn't have a meaty unit. Like Marauder's the closest thing, but if you had like a Roach or a Zealot in front of a siege tank, or better yet, like a fungal growth of the siege tank. So yeah, I like playing Terran and just going, siege tank Roach and telling him to get some infestors, and then it kind of just kills everything. So definitely, have my ally deal with all the tough stuff while I make siege tanks and watch everything die. It's kind of my Terran build.
All the tough stuff. That's great.
And the best thing about the strategy is that at the end of every battle, your ally has no units, right? Because they were a tank and you were behind them. So it's, if you're like, hey man, why do I gotta carry you? Because they have nothing left. And
it's like, dude, your units splash damage my. Nice. Yeah, it's exactly. Come on, man. Come on, man up. So Shadowist asks, would you rather be in a tournament with or without Koreans? The pro being that you're testing your skills against the best of the best. The con being that your chances of placing high just went down. Thoughts?
I would rather there be Koreans, unless there's like a ton of money. I would rather if it's just about placement and practice in a term environment, I would love I don't care about how high I place if there's no Koreans in it. Like that's the bottom line. But of course, if it was more access to money, I'd like that. But I think the tournaments need to have Koreans. If you don't have Koreans in the tournaments, it's not going to be the same drive that for the top foreigners to keep improving.
Right.
They'll be you need to have just the more competition, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and for the scene as a whole, the better players you have at your tournament, the more people are going to tune in and watch.
Yeah, exactly.
So, other than NASL, what is the next big tournament for you? Anything, and how are you preparing for it?
Well, just after NASL is an ongoing thing, and then there's the MLG invite-only online qualifiers for their Spring Arena #2, and that's going to be big. I really hope I can get through that like I did the last one. And I plan on really working on my PvT. That's my weak matchup. And there's, a good number of Terrans who are going to be in a tournament who can really knock me down if I don't work hard in that matchup. So I'm going to go through, find a bunch of Terran practice partners and just grind out a lot of games. Try to work on. I've got about 2 to 3 new approaches to PvT I really want to work on. And that if I can get 2 to 3 of these approaches where I feel confident in them, I can use different ones in different maps and kind of mix it up a bit. And that's really my goal. Because right now I don't even have a single approach that I'm confident in. I just kind of, I have a bunch that I can do, but they're all ones where I can do this, and I'm not good enough at doing this to actually really win unless he makes a mistake. So that's the matchup I want to work on.
Nice. Well, best of luck to you there.
Thank you.
So, well, I believe that is the end of questions from chat room. We should probably wrap it up anyway, as we are running out of time. But I always like to end on an off-topic, non-StarCraft related question. So I have a question for you. Goes back to our discussion at MLG. What's your favorite beer?
Oh, I get that one a bunch because I tell everyone I'm into microbrews. My individual favorite beer that I would drink a lot would have to be the Stone Sublimely Self-Ruination Black IPA from Stone Brewing from the Southern California. That's definitely. That has to be probably my single favorite, but there's so many. Actually, right where I live now in San Leandro, there's a great brewery called Drake's Brewing, and they make a lot. They have an imperial stout that's amazing. They have all the types of beer, and they're all really great. They're one of the better breweries I've been to.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, there were a few of those when I lived in Southern California. Not that one, but microbrewery restaurants, and I kind of miss it. There aren't nearly as many in Florida, alas. But we do have an awesome one. We have Cigar City in Tampa, and they're great. They're a great local brewery. Kyle, what's your favorite beer, out of curiosity? Are you even a beer drinker?
No. No, I don't drink enough to understand what I'm drinking. People usually just
What do you drink? Smirnoff Ice and Mike's Hard Lemonade.
yes, I do, sir. There's nothing wrong with that. No, I'm a huge pansy when I come to drinking. So
Okay.
I'm still in that noob stage where people give me beer and they're like, "Here, drink this," So, what am I gonna do? There's something here in town called Dragon's Milk that makes me feel like a badass when I'm drinking because it's the darkest thing I've ever seen, and it's got a dragon on the bottle. So.
Oh, okay. So why not? Is that what you D&D night? You have to go out and get a 6-pack of that.
Why not? Let's say it's my favorite.
All right. Fair enough. Nice. Very nice. Well, cool, guys. I think that is an episode. That is 98. I can't believe we're almost on our 100th episode, guys. This is
crazy.
ridiculous. So, AxSlav, before we leave, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at Twitter at ISAxSlav. And you can, I have a Facebook page that I actually need to still get back from EG, I think. But you can also follow my stream at Twitch, www.twitch.tv/AxSlav. And there's also, on Team Liquid, I have a fan page that has links to everything. If you just go to Team Liquid and search under that. As well as I also have, a page on for my stream on Team Liquid. So, Twitter, stream, and Team Liquid, the best ways to get a hold of me.
Very cool. Well, if you want more StarCast guys, you can always head over to the StarCast.com. That has our forums, our archives, t-shirts you can buy, and a lot more. You can catch us live Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. EDT at twitch.tv/StarCastShow, and you can email the show at starcastshow@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can also call the StarCast line at 941-882-0281. And also don't forget that we want you guys to call that line, and we want you to leave a message for the 100th episode telling us where you'd like to see StarCast go in the future, what guests you'd like to see us do, maybe new segments you'd like to see us add, or just completely crazy revamping of the show. It's your imagination. Just go nuts, what you'd like to see us do. So we'll be doing a montage or something of the calls, and we'll be replying to them. We want to do something fun and quirky for episode 100. Follow us on Twitter. You can follow us at the StarCast. Follow me at Garrett Art. You can follow Kyle at Kyle Ferguson. You can follow our producer Patrick at Patrick Jester, and you can follow our editor at Captain Newbing. We thank them very much for all the hard work they do for StarCast. Kyle, when you're not doing the show, where can people find you?
You can find me over at Biggest Fan Podcast, where we follow the fad that's driving you mad. And this week, I'm being driven mad by Game of Thrones. That's right.
Yes! Yes!
Soon to come out will be the Hunger Games episode, followed very quickly by Game of Thrones. So check that out on iTunes.
I'll be tuning into both of those since I just ordered my trilogy of the books for Game of Thrones because I finished book 1, and now I'm going crazy because I have to know what happens next. So I just, the 3-pack was cheaper than getting 2, just buying 2 and 3, so I just bought the damn 3-pack. That should be getting here soon. And I love Game of Thrones. I'm a nut for it. Just watched episode 2. I can't watch the show week to week. It's not okay. I watched season 1 marathon style.
Yeah, no, it's not the same. I'm feeling the same thing with Legend of Korra. If you enjoy Avatar Last Airbender, they actually did something really interesting this past week. Nickelodeon was like, you're a miniseries. We don't want you to have a full season. They're like, okay. And they released 2 episodes of the show out into the public, and the public goes, yes, we love it. We want more. And Nickelodeon goes, well, I guess we'll give you a series. So
Nice.
Awesome. You can find those 2 episodes of Avatar Last Airbender, the new Korra. Oh, man, I'm such a nerd about those, so excited for that.
That's great. And guys, don't forget you can find both Kyle and myself along with our new co-host Ben Zweifel over on This Week in Blizz. It is our new show. We're recording our 2nd episode tomorrow, and we are covering every single frickin' Blizzard IP you could think of, not to mention rumors about their new IPs, Titan, ooh. So if you like Warcraft, if you like StarCraft, or if you like the upcoming Diablo 3, which we're in the beta of and cannot play enough of, you should tune into that. You can find us on iTunes. Just search for This Week in Blizz. You can find us at thisweekinblizz.com. You can email the show at thisweekinblizz@gmail.com, and on Twitter it's at thisweekinblizz. Everything's This Week in Blizz. We didn't make the mistake we did with StarCast. So go check that out. And, of course, don't forget our awesome sponsors, Doghouse Systems. They really do make awesome computers, and the only thing better than computers is the guys that run the place. The guys over at Doghouse are just awesome. John, the owner, he's the man. Keith and Clark, who help us personally with the show, they're just awesome. And my computer is insane. I love it. I've never had anything this nice in my life. So you should go check them out because they support us. And our code, once again, is StarCast Biscuit one of the two, you'll get double memory on your next Doghouse rig. So go to doghousesystems.com and check them out. Anyways, guys, that's been episode 98. Make sure you tune in next week for episode 99 with MLG CEO, Sundance D. Giovanni. I'm tripping over my words because I'm so excited to have him. I'll be really looking forward to picking his brain. You'll, of course, be able to ask him questions live in the chat room if it's working next week.
Well, you can always go over to the forums and post in advance as well. So we'll be getting some questions from there, too.
Oh, of course. That's definitely someone that's pulling a little bit of attraction from the forums. So like, here's my question, take it. So there'll probably be a bit of editing done. All right. Well, AxSlav, thanks so much for coming back on the show. Maybe we'll have to have you on again.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
So good luck on Friday. Good luck with the MLG online qualifier. And hopefully we'll see you at whatever the next tournament we show up to is.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, everyone. We'll see you in a week's time. Good luck. Have fun. And good night.
Take care.
Cool.